Hello everybody, welcome to your crash course into Express.js. If you're not familiar with Express.js or Express, it is a back-end web application framework for building RESTful APIs with Node.js. With Express.js, you can create web applications that can serve dynamic content, handle form submissions, manage sessions and cookies, and much more. Additionally, Express.js can be easily integrated with other popular JavaScript libraries and tools to create modern, full-featured web applications. Now, before we continue with our videos, let me encourage you to subscribe to my channel. I'm on a mission to making you a better web developer, one video at a time. So subscribe to my channel, like this video, and if you have any comment, make sure to leave it in the comment section. Sounds good? Let's continue with our video. Now, before we do anything, we need to create a Node.js application. And then after creating a Node.js application, that's how you create a Node.js application. Actually, let me show you a better way to create a Node.js application so that you don't have to go through all those other questions. Yeah, this is the better way to create a Node.js application. And then after that, you just need to install Express.js and pm install Express like that. And then after you create your Node.js application, all you just need to do is to open up your code and then create an app.js file, and inside of that app.js file, I want you to import your Express package as such. But you're probably familiar with this, but for this tutorial, we're actually going to be using the type module in order to import our packages. This is a different and much more easier way to actually import our packages in Node.js. So all we need to do is to go to our package.json, and inside of our package.json, we just write over here type, and then we say module. So the other module that is popular, this one is the ECMAScript module, but the other module that is popular is the common.js module. Alright, and now if we go back to our app.js code, we can just simply say import express from, is it supposed to, okay, import express from Express, like that. Alright, so make sure that you put up those codes like that, and then just like that, you've used type module in order to, or ECMAScript module, in order to import that Express package from the, this Express function on the Express package. Now we are going to create an Express application. Now before we continue with our video, I do want to step in a little bit and explain the role of Express.js in a complete or in a full stack application. Right. So when creating a full stack application, you have front-end systems. Front-end essentially means the things that you can see, your interface, and then you have all these systems that are inside of your back-end systems. So what needs to happen is that the front-end system needs to be able to communicate to your back-end systems. Your front-end systems need to communicate to your database and need to communicate to other systems that are embedded in your back-end application. So in order to allow effective communication from your front-end systems to back-end systems, you need what you call an API, an application programming interface. This will allow communication between your front-end systems and your back-end system. So this is where Express.js comes in. Express.js is the path between your front-end and your back-end, and it uses API in order to create or carve out that path of communication between your front end and your back end. So your front end simply uses an API that you're going to create using Express.js in order to communicate to your back end services or to your database. So this is where Express.js comes in. Now let's go back to our code. So now we need to create an Express.js application, and in order to do that, we're going to create a constant, be a constant called app, and we're going to create a server now, and we're just going to say app.listen, and we're going to put in a port, and we're just going to use port 5000, or we can put port 5001 because I don't know if that port is still available, like that. And you can create a backend function that simply tells you if your application server or your backend server is running. So it's going to say I am running at port 5001. It's usually advisable actually to put your port inside of your environment variable so that you don't hard code it in this way. Right, so that is good. So now the first thing that we need to do is we need to create a a hello world application or a hello world API. So in order to do that, we can just simply say app.get. So we're going to create get over here, and we're going to create a string that is going to be our API path, and we're just going to say hello world like this. And then we're going to just say create these res like this, and inside of here we're going to put in our response. So these functions, or I don't know what you can call them, these functions that you have over here allow you first of all to respond to the API being called. So this res over here is responding, is giving the responding action once that API is being ran. And this rec over here is actually taking information from the person who is running the request. So whatever information that we need in order to process this request, we're going to get it from rec. So we're just going to say rec.send, and we're just going to say hello world like this. Now, in order to process your application, or in order to process your API, you can use this incredible tool called Insomnia. So you can just like go online and say API testing Insomnia and download the software. It is very efficient. Or you can use Postman, but I've actually found Insomnia to be very efficient whenever I'm testing my APIs. Or if you want to go at it a little bit more simpler, you can actually just run your API inside of your code. So I'm going to create a file, and I'm just going to say test.http like this. And this is where I'm going to put in my APIs and I'm going to test them in. But before I actually use this file, I have to actually install a package called REST client. So this is the package that you need. You need to install this package over here, and then you're done. And then you go to your test.http, and then you just put in your request like this. Let's just say / localhost. I can just import it from my Insomnia like this. Oh, first you need to actually mention what type of request it is, and then put in your thingy over there. And in order to send the request, you can just press over here, and it's going to show you the result of that API on the right side of your JavaScript code IDE. Now, the probable reason why it's not running is because we have not actually ran our backend server, so we just need to say node.app.js, or you can use node-mond. So you can see that our server is running. That's good. We come back over here and we click, and there you go. Oh, it says cannot send email. So let's try to figure, cannot send email. Let's try to figure out what could be the problem. It's because our path is actually incorrect. This is the correct path over here. I'm just gonna copy it, and I'm just gonna actually paste it. Just get rid of this. I'm just gonna paste it in here, and then run the request again, and there you go. We have our hello world over there. So the next thing that I'm actually going to teach you to do in Express.js is how to send files, and it's a pretty easy thing to do. So in order to pass over a file, you practically have to do the same thing, but in this case we need the file that we need to pass over, or we need the file that we want to download, because that is the keyword that we're going to use in our Express.js API. So we just put this in. So you can see that the structure is a little bit the same, but instead of saying res.send, we're going to just say res.download, and we're going to identify the path of that file, or the path of that image that we have over here. But it could be any file. So we're not going to run this on our test.htp. Instead, we're actually going to run it in our browser so that we can be able to download our application. So I'm just going to paste it. Oh, sorry. I'm just going to say http localhost 5001, and then over here I'm going to say download file like this, and there it is. So you can see that it's requesting us to download that image that we have over there, and this is actually an image of my previous videos on how to use ChatGPT to create a to-do list application. So you can see that it's pretty much easy to download a file or with Express.js. Now the last thing that I actually want to show you, or the next thing that I'm actually going to show you, is to how to store your information in sessions. So Express is also a session manager. So let's say maybe you have about 1,000 users logging into your application. Now what you want to do is that you want to be able to store the behavior or the attributes regarding that user in what we call sessions, because now that will be able to, or that will allow you to dynamically respond to that user's request. So you want to be able to know if a user says they want their color to be red, the background to be red, then you can just store those simple information inside of your request sessions, and you can use that session in order to session data actually to respond to the user dynamically, or to respond to the user accordingly to their behavior pattern or to their request. So in order to use our Express session, so many of you might not be familiar with Express session, but let me just do a quick overview of what Express session is, because it's quite important when it comes to programming. Express session is a popular middleware of Express.js that provides session management for web applications. So like I said, if you have like about 10,000 users, you want to have the ability to store the behavior or the personality of each user, so that every single time that you interact with the user, you don't have to re-authenticate them. You already know information about, you already have information about who you're interacting with. So the first thing that we need to do before we use the Express session is that we need to actually install Express session. So we're just going to do it over here. And then after that, we need to import Express session at the very top. We just need to say import session from Express session, like that. It's already installed. There we go. And then after we're done doing that, remember that this is a middleware, so we need to actually configure the middleware. So in order to configure the middleware, I'm just going to paste this code and just going to explain to you what is happening here. So the first thing that you need is a secret key. So this secret key is going to be used to sign your session ID cookie. So this should be a very unique and unpredictable string. And then on the resave option is a boolean that controls whether the session should be resaved to the store, even if it has not been modified. Now the save unutilized option is a boolean that controls whether a new unutilized session should be saved to the store. And then the cookie option is an object that configures the cookie that is sent to the client. So in order to store data inside of your session, all you would need to do is do the following. You would just say app.use, and then inside of here, look at this, request.session.user. Now this is where you store your user information. You can say request.session. Let me say maybe product or something like that. And then this information is going to actually be stored inside of your sessions. So whenever you need to retrieve your information from your session, you would just simply console log. You can just simply say, let's say for example, if we want to retrieve information about our session, we can just come over here and we can just say request.session.user, and then we can just console log this, and this is how we can actually access that information, like this. So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to create another API in here where I'm going to retrieve actually the name of our, let's say maybe user. So I'm just going to call it get name, or maybe set name, like that. And inside of here, I'm going to actually save the name of this person inside of our session. I'm going to say session.user, and then I'm going to just say request.body.name, like this. Sorry. And now our the name of that person. So actually we have to use post in here, like that. That's okay. So now we can store the user's name inside of our sessions like this. And then I'm going to create a get post, a get API actually, that is able to actually retrieve the name of that user that we just stored right now. So it's going to say get.name, and then we're just going to say rest.send, and it's going to give us maybe the information about that user, like that. So instead of saying user, let me just say username, because user implies a lot of things. So I'm just going to say username like that. That's cool. And then maybe in here as well, you can just say username. Perfect. And now we have to run a post API over here. So in order to create the second API, we're just going to create 3 hash keys like that, and we're just going to say post, and there, that's good. And then over here we're just going to say set name, like that. And we're going to define what we're taking. You know, instead of using passing this as a body, I'm actually going to use a parameter. So I'm just going to pass the name over here. I'm just going to say coding 101. Maybe we can change this to a get, and save that as is, and then go back to our app.js. Instead of using body, I'm just going to say rec.params dot username like that. And inside of here, all I'm just going to do is I'm going to say username like that. Okay, so what this is going to do is it's going to take any parameter that we get from here, and it's going to initialize our rec.session.username. And this one over here, just make sure this is a get post instead of a post. A post API. So yeah, I think this is good. So now we just need to run our API. One more thing though, I do want to send a response so that we can see that this is successful. Alright. Okay, so now let's try this. And first of all, what we need to do is we need to run the set name. And we can see that it's successful. And now we need to actually get that session information. We run this and we see that actually we're not getting the value that we put in. We're not getting this username here. That's very important to note, because in order to use Express Session, you also need a session store in order to persist the data that you are storing inside of your session. Because what is happening now is that, sure, it is saved. If we were to put our console log over here, you can actually see that the session data is actually being stored, but it's not persisting. So we need a data store in order to actually, let me just show you. If we were to, let's say, run this again, if we were to run this and we go back to our command line, you could see that in our session, this username actually exists. We've just put it inside of our session. But what is actually happening is that it's not staying there for long. It's not being shown over here because it's not being persistent, because it's not being stored in anything. So what we need to do is we need to connect a session store. You can also connect your session store to connect to Redis. We can use Mongo, or in my case, I'm actually going to be using MySQL in order to connect my session store. I've actually created an env file over here. Inside of my env, I've actually created or put in some credentials that are going to be helpful in creating a MySQL session store. But before we do anything else, first of all, we need to actually import in this package called Express MySQL Session. So we need to import that into our code. So first, of course, what you actually need to do after installing this would be to import your MySQL store package like this. I think that's how it's done. From Express MySQL Session like that. That's good. And don't forget to configure your .env file. And then we're going to put in our configuration details over here. And then we're going to create a session store. Like that, but we're not going to actually, we're going to create this to be a const. I'm going to create a session store like that. And inside of here, I'm also going to put in my cookie key. So I'm just going to put in my cookie key because I'm actually going to be saving this inside of a cookie. So I'm going to save it like that. And then I'm going to put in my cookie secret key as well, that I've saved inside of my env, like this. And then I think that is just about it that we need to do in order to create or initialize or configure our session store. So now what's going to happen is that every single time we store information in our session, it's going to be persisted and it's going to be saved in our session store. Okay, so one thing that we actually forgot to do is we forgot to actually put the store inside of our session like this. So we're just going to say store and we're just going to session store like that. And with that expression store configuration, we conclude our video for today. This is a crash course. This has been a crash course into Express.js. Remember that Express is a popular JavaScript-based web framework for building web application. It is built on top of Node.js and provides a set of robust APIs for creating HTTP servers, routing HTTP requests, and managing middleware. Now, Express.js is designed to be minimal, flexible, and unopinionated, making it a great choice for developers who want to build web applications quickly and easily. With Express.js, one thing that you can do is to serve dynamic content. You can handle form submission and manage sessions and cookies. We've touched on the session part and much more. You can do so many other things. So Express.js can be easily integrated with other JavaScript libraries and tools to create modern, full-featured web application. Thank you very much for watching. If you've enjoyed this video, please do make sure that you subscribe to my channel. Make sure that you like this video. If you have any comments, if you're struggling with something, please leave your comments in the comment section, and do check out my website if you want to know more about what I can offer you in terms of helping you become the best developer you can be. Thank you very much for watching. I will see you in the next video.